Hello again, my friends. Glad to see you back. Now, in the last lesson, we tried to understand the logic of working with Angular. We got into some of the nitty-gritty, and we learned that the index.html page is served in the browser. We talked about the auto-added script file that will launch Angular while running. Then we talked about Angular components. It's thanks to the app root that understands the code while writing it. Angular understands the changes and then loads them into our application. Look, the situation that we see in the browser is different from here because that's what Angular does. Overwrite at runtime. And we already know that Angular is a JS framework, and that means that it allows us to build single-page applications. We've already talked about some of these situations. So now it's time to talk about components. So what the heck is this app module and components? Well, we could say that components are structures that perform a specific task within the application. And we could also say that components are the basic building blocks of Angular, because we can create the whole application with several different components. So let's just say that we have an app, and we get a classic image on this app page, right? A page structure, such as a navbar, menu, and a main area. So here we can think of all these structures as components. And there is the basic app component that keeps them all together. And now, when you look at it, each of the components that are divided in this way can each have their own logic, right? Data structure, template, style, and so forth. So that means we can break down the much more complex application structure. These departments are structures that work with their own business logic and can be reused. And since we can divide complex structures into more simple sections, it becomes very easy for us to make changes and debug them. So instead of seeing the entire application on a single HTML page, we can simplify our codes by dividing it into many different components. We can prepare our application by creating usable components with a unique business logic. Thanks to the applications that get rid of the complex structure, it's way easier for us to create more controllable and more comfortable applications. Thus, updating the application will be easier thanks to reusable components, and that means our work will proceed quicker, easier, more efficiently, and we end up with dry code. Yes, my friends, we talked a lot about the components. Hopefully, we've understood what happens. So now it's time to create new components and include them in our project. So in our next lesson, we're going to create a component, all right? See you then. Bye for now.